Hey, Steve.
Hi, Dean. How are you?
Good. Episode 132. Here we go, my friend. All right. First, let everyone else know a little bit about you.
I'm Steve Christian. I run a little boutique consultancy called HCM Solutions, and I represent sort of fractional CMO for B2B business and a lot of technology companies, sort of in the past in the video space, but more and
Mhm.
more general, in fact, video and internet security, I would say.
Excellent. Okay, so here's the scenario. Here's the hypothetical. Okay, so sales process is over. Paperwork's been signed. A new 1 year long fractional CMO or marketing engagement, right, has started, and today's day one. What at the end of the first 90 days, let's say, what do you look back at and sort of are the what's been accomplished if we're 90 days in the first 90 days of a new engagement? Boy, I could
Yes,
not have mangled that question any worse. Keep going, please.
it's a terrifying prospect, right? The day one sort of challenge.
Yeah.
And the way I try and think about it, starting a new uh, phase of work is really to think about a 30, 60, 90-day kind of structure to the program where you're being brought in to create some kind of inflection point in the growth of the company, either due to a change of
Hmm.
personnel or a change of circumstance or something like that. The initial challenge is to kind of balance up the fixing the immediate problems with some creating some kind of long-term vision. You've got to deliver something in the early days that really makes a difference, whilst working on the problems that potentially give you the best platform for future growth. I think that's really the quintessential kind of trade-off that you're trying to make when you're sitting in that seat the
Right.
first day.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I work with at this point, I think I know maybe 400 fractional CMOs, and the main difference, while any CMO, like full time employee or fractional, I think starts off wanting to get a lot done in the first 30, 60, 90, especially. The fractional CMOs really, really need to get a lot accomplished in the first 90 days. They don't have like an ease into it kind of setup normally.
Not at all. No, there's usually something's hurting, so you've got to go in and
Yeah.
fix the pain points, at least some of them anyway, initially,
Yeah.
with
So,
with a view to that longer term perspective. And I think that's sort of balancing
yeah.
that up is the key issue.
Yeah. You don't want to burn it all up in the first 90. Raul, how you doing?
Hi, how's it going?
Can let folks know a little bit about you, and then I want to tackle the same kind of question.
Sure. So I'm Raul Pero. I'm a fractional CMO and marketing advisor and have 20 years of experience in consumer goods marketing. And I have worked in-house at companies from different sizes, from Fortune 500 to private equity owned to family owned to startups. My industry experience is in food and beverage and the wellness space.
Right.
And now I help startups that are ready to scale up, and they are probably ready to redefine their brand strategy and positioning, and look at their product portfolio, their growth strategy, be smart with their spending. So that is my focus.
So, in the companies that you're working with, right,
Mhm.
are there like two or three sort of typical problems they tend to all have that you encounter in the first 90 days?
Yeah, usually there is a lack of focus. There is too many things going on. So what I do in the first 90 days is I try to absorb the business model and the company's goal as fast as possible, and try to define what is actually driving the business and what is not. What is a distraction? What is a time waster? What is a nice to have, but it's not really essential to the business
Right.
at this
Yep.
point in where the company and brand is. And as I work with a lot of startups, I work with a lot of founders. And so they tend to be creative and they tend to be, passionate, very passionate about new things and pursue the ideals. But that is usually means that you have the team working on 10, 15 different things and none of them really, really well done. So I've seen that across the board. And so I think that being able to identify what is working, what is not working really, really fast and get the focus on 1 to 3 things and is what I've seen, one of the most common challenges, I would say.
Right. All right, so let's extend the hypothetical a little further, Raul. Okay, I'm the CEO of this client company that you've just been engaged by. Okay, and I'm saying, Raul, you deal with a lot more CEOs than I deal with CMOs. So, is there anything that I should stop doing or start doing to make sure that we squeeze every last penny of value out of what we're spending on you?
Yes, that is a good question. And I think people need to be ready to work. They want to work with a fractional CMO. That means that they need to be themselves available. And that means that they need to be efficient with the time spent. So there's a couple things there. So one of the things is make sure that you have the right information, the right resources available, especially in those 90 days. If we want to get a lot done, which is a lot of diagnosis done and strategic planning and probably low-hanging fruit tactics implemented right away. A lot of people, a lot of CEOs dump you with a lot of information, and that is a waste of time and a waste of the value of the CMO to go and sort through all files to put a picture together that probably is not the right one, right? So I would say prepare yourself, make sure you have a folder with the right information before to paint the picture that is current, the most available, current updated picture of the company, where it is at, where it comes from, and where you want to take it to. And that is going to be one. Second is going to be make yourself available and make sure that as we work together, you give feedback and approvals as fast as possible. Because a low-hanging fruit tactic that takes 2 months to approve is no low-hanging fruit anymore. And so thinking that I am only probably working with you 5 to 10 hours a week, and that's not even, in total time, it's not even a week, month, right? So if it's going to take us forever to agree on something, or it's going to take the CEO, weeks to get a feedback on every piece of information, and everything that we do is going to take months to implement.
And Steve, how about you? Is there something you wish the CEOs would start doing, or that you wish that they would just stop doing once you get work underway?
Yeah, I was reflecting on two radically different situations, actually. The first one is where you've been brought in as part of an overall executive change. Maybe a new CEO has been appointed by the board, and you're filling the marketing role. So that's a challenge where you have to really develop a joint sense of the vision going forward, right? But at least you're both working on the change dimension together. Bringing the executive team together and like Raul says, sort of spending enough time together to actually get a shared sense of where the organization needs to head and some realistic objectives. The second and probably the more tricky one is where you're joining an executive team that already exists with a CEO who potentially led the company through its early phase, and where growth has plateaued out or something like that. So you're being brought in to create that inflection point. But the CEO is potentially going to hang on to a number of ideas that he had right from the early stage of the organization. A bias towards certain kinds of promotion, a bias towards how to present the product, and so on and so forth. As a CEO, you probably got to give me as the new guy on the block a way to use that fresh pair of eyes that I bring to
Right.
sort of reevaluate some of those things. And you have to be able to let go of certain sacred cows potentially to now allow the new marketing direction to sort of take hold and to shape itself. That can be a tricky kind of transition, but I think it's important a sort of thing for the CEO to think about.
Yeah. All right, Steve, I have a couple of questions coming up, and they're my favorite questions because it's really easy for me and way harder for you guys. So almost all the work's done on your side. Yeah, yay! And so they're just fill in the blank. So easy, so simple. Here's the first one for you, and then we'll let Raul take a stab at it. Many clients just don't understand
Many
what's the
clients
answer.
don't understand. Okay, so fill in the blank.
Fill in the blank.
Yeah. So yeah the tricky thing I think sometimes, and I see
Mm-hmm.
this repeatedly, is they don't really understand marketing and the role that it can play across the company, the breadth of impact that marketing can have when you take a
Right.
holistic viewpoint, and potentially more significant. And this again is something I've encountered a number of times. They don't understand the marketing funnel as this thing that's distinct from the sales funnel, and that whole notion of engaging new uh, new leads, engaging prospects, building up confidence, building up awareness of the brand and what the company can do, and so on and so forth, and not just firing them sales emails as soon as they become a lead on the website, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
That whole notion of a structured marketing funnel potentially leading up to a high quality sales engagement is something that I think a lot of companies struggle with. And that's a kind of like um, maybe it's a sales to marketing dichotomy or something like that, but I think it's something that a lot of companies need to learn and to practice. And that's the way I kind of structure things when I get uh, into such a role. I think about how that marketing funnel is going to be structured, how it's going to be measured, how we measure success, how we interact with the sales team, for instance. What's the handover point that's appropriate? And obviously, that's always been tricky. Sales and marketing sort of relationships always been tricky. But if we can get that sense, teach people how marketing can be most effective in driving awareness and the prospects for the organization to help drive that inflection point for the business, then I think it's very
I
critical.
saw an interview, a marketing podcast a few weeks ago, maybe last month, and it came down to, one of the questions was like, how do you like justify or prove ROI for marketing? And the guy did a good job. He said, never mind about the numbers and stuff. He said, if your marketing team is at the top of their game, every other team and department in the company gets to play their game on easy mode.
Yeah, that's there's all these
Yeah.
levers you can pull in the marketing game, right? They call it classically the
Mm-hmm.
4 Ps, and other people have different definitions, but all those things we should be considering as we step into that role. It's like, do we have the right product? Do we
Mm-hmm.
have the right pricing for it? Do we have uh, all of the right positioning side of things? Takes a bit longer, and then how are we actually going about actually communicating through different channels to the
Mm-hmm.
organization? So it's as I say, a very holistic kind of approach, and something that isn't instantaneously let's drive more leads from the website. It's actually how do we actually graduate that funnel and as you say, give an easier role for the people who are
Yep.
actually selling and supporting the product.
And Raul, how about you? All right. Most clients just don't understand what.
Well, a couple things. I agree with Steve in that marketing. It is, a lot of people don't understand what marketing is, and I think that a lot of people think, especially in consumer goods, CPG marketing, people think marketing is social media or PR.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Or
social media
advertising.
and PR is those those functions are marketing. Marketing is business management, essentially, right? Like you, as a good marketer, should be able to look at the business from a holistic perspective and be able to manage everything around the business, from brand strategy to product innovation to sales channels to distribution, P&L. So it's a very profound function. It's not limited. It is not a silo function like maybe other functions in the company can be siloed. Marketing has and has to interact with so many different functions to operate efficiently and effectively. Right. And then to take it next part, what other people don't understand is that going viral is not a strategy. I cannot tell you how many clients I have that is like, oh, I just want to go viral. I'm like, that is not a strategy. Going viral can happen, but you cannot think that that is going to be a strategy. That should be a consequence of a well-put marketing strategy. But going viral is not a strategy itself.
Buying lottery tickets is not a retirement plan.
Right? I mean, maybe you hit it and that's great. And sometimes you hit it and it's not where you thought it was going to be. Yeah. So a viral moment is always a bonus, but it's not a strategy. You cannot bet your company's future on going viral. And that is just not how it works. And even the companies that go viral, or they spend a lot of money, they have a lot of budget, right? Or they just is completely unexpected and they cannot really explain why.
Or exploit it properly. Yeah. Hey, so I want to pivot a little bit and let's get away from talking about clients. In fact, I'm not going to ask you guys any more questions about clients. But here's the other fill in the blank question. Okay. A fractional CMO starting out today is going to be surprised by what?
You mean like somebody that today's starts
their first day
as a fractional CMO?
Yeah.
And I think they need to understand, or that they are not going to be in control of everything, right? Like I said before, marketing is business, strategy and business management. Well, as a fractional, you're not going to be involved in 100% of the decisions of the business. So you have to be comfortable with that, and you have to make sure that you are part of the decisions that are driving the business. And the rest, you have to let it go. So maybe that piece of marketing is not going to have all the right marketing elements, and that's fine, right? Because that is not what is driving the business. Again, as a fractional CMO, you should have a strong scope of work that is very, very well aligned with the CEO, right, and that is very focused on what drives value, where you can drive value. And that is you're not going to have a complete involvement, and you're not going to be included in every decision, and you're not going to be controlling.
And Steve, what do you think? A fractional CMO who just became a fractional CMO today is going to be surprised or shocked by what?
That they need to be comfortable.
Well, I think you can guarantee that the budget is going to be a shock, right? Either positively or negatively. So when you get to understand the numbers, then it's going to be a real, eye opener, if you like. So at that point what you've got to work with. Another thing that you're going to be surprised about.
But you're saying the budgets are too big. That's what you're saying, right? I know you're not saying the budgets are going to be too big.
If you like.
Yeah.
How you calibrate it if you were starting from a blank sheet of paper. It will be way high or way low.
Right.
The other thing that I think you're going to be surprised by, should I say, is the extent to which certain things are working and certain things not working. there'll be a set of expectations that you bring to the table about
Right.
what will work and what won't work, and you'll be surprised by the historical pattern that you find when you actually start looking into data. So certain things that you imagined would be useless are actually somehow or apparently seem to be working better than you imagine. You've got to recalibrate yourself a little bit in terms of how that might be the case. So what you'd missed in your initial analysis of the company's situation.
Right.
Similarly, I think you're going to be surprised by strengths and weaknesses of the team that you inherit. There'll be some people who will be exceptional at certain things, and some people who potentially are a drag on the organization, and you've got to evaluate that pretty quickly as well.
Okay. That makes sense. All right. So on this podcast, the guests pick their own time slots, independent of each other, which means they end up in a podcast with another fractional CMO completely at random. So before we sort of wind down, I like to give each guest the chance to ask the other fractional CMO in the room, so to speak, any question you want. It can be about clients, it can be about marketing, it can be about how you find customers, anything you want. So we'll start with Steve. You can ask any question you want.
So I thought I would throw something out here, kind of
Yeah.
interesting. It's like, would you ever propose that a Super Bowl ad has the right ROI as a fractional CMO?
No, I mean, if they are hiring a fractional CMO, they probably don't have the budget for a Super Bowl ad.
Fair enough.
But no, I just cannot see any of those Super Bowl ad actually having an ROI. And I mean, I don't really know the percentage, but most of it goes to very, traditional large companies and brands. Um, I would never
Well, there's been a
recommend
lot of,
that. I mean,
a
I'm
lot of
sure it's
recent
exciting and
crypto adverts, right? So,
sorry,
the
what?
Yeah.
crypto advert thing has been interesting because those are kind of startups and not really directed at anyone. But I mean, I'm just curious because certain people will say, "Oh, swing for the fences, right? Go big or go home," or something like that. But that's maybe the extreme example of swinging for the fences, and I'm often
Yeah, that
tempted
is
to
that
ask how
is
they
a big
evaluate that.
bet.
So,
That is a
yeah,
big bet, and unless you have very deep, deep, deep pockets, I don't think that is the bet that I would suggest at all.
that's where I would come from as well.
And Raul, how about you? What's your question?
Yeah, so I was as a fractional CMO, Steve. Um, is there any tool that have made your work easier? Is there any tool out there that you would suggest other fractional CMOs that is like, okay, this tool has helped me a lot?
For sure, yes. It may seem completely obvious, but I've come into a number of companies where they don't really have any kind of CRM um, and marketing automation tool that's associated with the CRM. And so, one of the things that I think is pretty critical is to establish the foundations of marketing tools that will actually help the team be efficient and actually know what's going on. And the CRM, a good CRM, an appropriately sized CRM, perhaps would be the right way to put it, is a foundational tool that I think I introduced to many companies, and they see the benefits of it pretty fast. Where you're actually, tracking leads on spreadsheets and things like that, and evaluating sales prospects based on rudimentary tools, Google Sheets, and so on and so forth. Um,
Right.
the transition to using a true CRM and understanding the power that it can bring is incredibly enlightening to the organization, and also empowers the team that is the marketing team in particular, who can effectively leverage the automation that those tools bring and actually be more efficient about delivering a lot of content to a lot of people and measuring the results of that. So that's my perspective anyway. So.
Good.
So, Steve, these days it's time to wind down, and this has been fantastic. By the way, I love these answers. These days, who should be contacting you, and what's the best way for them to do it?
Who should be contacting me?
Go ahead.
CEOs or other members of the executive team of small to medium businesses who need that kind of fresh pair of eyes, who need an injection of new thought into the marketing profile of their organization, who need to understand how to take their business to the next level. Maybe it plateaued out, or the market has changed, or something like that. You're looking for a fresh evaluation and a new set of tools and techniques which will take your business to the next level and kick it into growth mode. Um,
And how
and
should they get to you?
How should they get to me? The email in the header of this file is great, or you can come to my website, which is htmsolutions.biz, and contact
Okay.
me, and I'd be happy to talk to you.
All right. And Raul, how about you? Who should contact you these days and how?
So I think any startup or small brand that is ready to scale,
Mm-hmm.
that is ready, for the next to get into the next growth stage, um, whether they are in food and beverage or the wellness space, they can, they should contact me. Also, I work a lot with founders pre-revenue, so they have a concept or an idea, but they don't really have a product yet or a brand. So anybody that is at that stage of they want to start a business, but they are ready. They have a concept. They only have a concept. They don't have a business yet. So I can
Right.
help them, with a brand strategy, and I'm putting, bringing that brand and product to life.
Okay,
And to
guys.
contact, I think LinkedIn is
Oh,
the
yes,
best
please.
way. Raul Pero right there. Or my email is Raul at changethegameceo.com.
That's excellent. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. And for everyone who's watching, like, thank you for watching. You're probably watching this on a clip. 99% chance you're watching it on a clip. In which case, there are many more clips with Steve and Raul to take a look at, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. So thanks, guys, and thank you for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.
It's been a pleasure.